Amid the dust and the clamor of construction, a humble bricklayer followed his exhausting routine, just as he did every day. What he couldn't foresee was that, on that very site, his destiny was about to collide with something that would change his life forever. Sitting down for lunch, with his modest meal prepared the night before, he noticed a shy gaze from a distance. It was a boy, standing still, silently watching him. Without a second thought, the bricklayer reached out and shared his food with that mysterious child. But what seemed like a simple act of kindness would soon reveal a secret no one could have imagined. Who was this boy? What was he doing alone in such a grand, imposing mansion? And why did his eyes carry a sadness far beyond his years? What this simple man didn't know was that the boy was hiding a truth powerful enough to shake the very walls of the mansion he was working on. A revelation so strong it would shock not only the bricklayer, but an entire family surrounded by luxury and silence. Get ready, because this isn't just a story of an unlikely friendship. It's a story of secrets, of love, of courage, and of revelations that will leave you breathless until the very end. João woke up every day before sunrise, grabbed the simple lunchbox he had prepared the night before, and headed to the construction site. Among cement, dust, and hammering, he carried not only bricks but also the weight of a life full of struggles. A widower from humble beginnings, he found dignity in every wall raised with sweat. And no matter how modest, his lunch was always shared. To João, sharing food was sharing hope. That day, sitting in a corner of the site, João opened his lunchbox of rice, beans, and a few pieces of boiled egg. While his co-workers laughed and chatted, he noticed something different. A curious, timid look came from the gate of the mansion under renovation. A boy was watching him, silent, hungry not only for food, but for affection. Intrigued, João called the boy over with a simple gesture. The child hesitated, took a few steps forward, then froze, embarrassed. With a warm smile, João scooped up some food and stretched out his hand. "Want to try?" he asked. The boy's eyes lit up as he nodded, accepting the piece of egg. That small moment was the beginning of something far greater than João could imagine. In the days that followed, the boy returned. Always discreet. Always silent. João began to pack a little more food in his lunchbox, as if he knew he wouldn't be eating alone. With each shared meal, his own loneliness eased. Somehow, that boy was filling an empty space in his heart. The other workers teased him. "Found yourself a little helper, huh?" They joked. But João didn't mind. He knew there was something special about the child. It wasn't just hunger, it was the need to be seen, to be cared for. And João's heart was big enough to give him that. The boy rarely spoke, but when he did, his voice was soft and hesitant. He mentioned liking to draw, to play in the garden, but he never spoke of his family. João never pushed. He just listened and smiled, knowing every word was a precious gift. Slowly, he realized the boy felt safe by his side. One quiet afternoon, the boy finally stepped closer with newfound confidence. "My name is Lucas," he said, revealing his identity at last. João smiled broadly and replied, "Nice to meet you, Lucas. I'm João." That moment marked the beginning of a genuine and unexpected friendship. From then on, João looked forward to seeing Lucas each day. If the boy didn't show up, he missed him. He started making heartier meals, saving money to be sure there'd always be enough for two. Lucas ate with joy, and João felt rewarded simply watching him smile. The bricklayer began to notice details. Lucas's polite manners, the subtle elegance of his clothes, his well-kept shoes. He didn't seem like an ordinary child. But João didn't care. To him, Lucas was simply a boy in need of care. At the end of each workday, João would look up at the sky and give thanks for meeting Lucas. He couldn't explain why, but something deep inside told him that this encounter was about to change his life. And destiny was already at work, quietly setting the stage for revelations he could never have imagined. As days went by, Lucas grew closer to João. He no longer came only at lunchtime. Sometimes he appeared in the morning, or lingered in the late afternoon. He loved watching the bricklayer at work, curious about each brick laid, each wall rising. Patiently, João explained what he was doing, turning the heavy labor into a kind of playful lesson. One time, Lucas tried to lift a brick, but his leg faltered. João noticed his struggle and gently supported him. That's when he learned the boy had a mild disability, something that kept him from running like other children. But for João, that didn't lessen the brightness in his eyes. For the first time, Lucas spoke of his loneliness. He said the mansion was huge, full of staff, yet everyone was always busy. His father, he revealed in just a few words, was buried in meetings and travels, rarely around. João listened quietly, his heart heavy. He recognized that emptiness. It was the same he had carried since losing his wife. Their friendship blossomed naturally. João began to tell stories of his youth in the countryside. Folk festivals, simple games, a life with no luxury but plenty of warmth. Lucas listened wide-eyed, as though discovering a whole new world. The workers began noticing the boy's constant presence. Some thought it odd, others laughed, but none understood the depth of their bond. To João, Lucas wasn't just a curious child. He was like the son life had given back to him. One rainy afternoon, Lucas arrived soaked, running to the site in search of João. The bricklayer quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around him. "You'll catch a cold, kid," he said, worried. The boy smiled and replied, "I just wanted to see you today." The words touched João's heart deeply. With the sound of rain echoing around them, they shared another meal. João realized it wasn't the food that mattered, but the presence, the listening, the silent care. Each day, his bond with Lucas grew stronger, as though destiny had tied their lives together for a greater purpose. Still, a quiet unease lingered in João's mind. Who really was Lucas? Where was his family? Why did he seem so alone in such a grand house? These questions circled in his thoughts, though he preferred not to chase the answers just yet. That night, lying in bed, João couldn't sleep. He thought of Lucas's sweet gaze and the weight of becoming part of the boy's life. He felt he needed to protect him, even if he didn't yet know why. And so, between shared meals, simple stories and silent glances, João and Lucas built an unexpected bond. A bond that would soon be tested, as greater forces and hidden secrets rose to the surface, threatening to tear apart what destiny had so carefully brought together. As the weeks went by, João noticed that Lucas never mentioned his mother. He spoke little of his father too, describing him as a busy man, almost unreachable. The absence of family figures intrigued João, but he chose to respect the boy's silence. He knew some wounds couldn't be forced open. One day, while carrying tools into the mansion, João caught a glimpse of Lucas climbing the grand staircase. He was dressed in fine, well-kept clothes, nothing like the ones he usually wore when hanging around the construction site. The sight left João stunned. The boy wasn't the child of servants as he had assumed, but someone directly tied to the mansion's wealthy owners. Puzzled, João mentioned it to a coworker, only to receive a wary look in return. "Don't get involved, João. Rich families don't like mixing," the man warned, shaking his head. The words echoed in João's mind, stirring an uneasy sense of danger. That night, João reflected deeply. What did this bond with Lucas really mean? Could it put his job at risk? Or worse, bring trouble he wasn't ready to face? Still, when he thought of the boy's smile, João knew he couldn't pull away. Clara, the housekeeper, a stern woman with sharp eyes, watched everything closely. She observed the growing closeness between the bricklayer and the boy with mounting suspicion. To her, João was nothing more than an outsider intruding on a world where he didn't belong. Yet, she couldn't ignore the happiness she saw in Lucas whenever João was around. One afternoon, Clara discreetly approached João. "You need to be careful," she said, her voice low but firm. "Not everyone here would approve of your friendship with the boy." Surprised, João replied softly, "All I want is to see him smile." For a brief moment, Clara hesitated, as if she had caught a glimpse of sincerity in his eyes. Unaware of the tension surrounding him, Lucas continued showing up every day. Now he asked João to teach him little things: how to lay a brick, how to measure a wall, even how to mix cement. João laughed, patient, letting the boy try. As they worked side by side, João often caught himself imagining what it would be like to have a son. His heart, once hardened by solitude, began to open again. Lucas filled a void he had thought impossible to heal. But deep down, João knew something wasn't right. The boy carried a sadness that didn't belong to his age. It was as if he were trapped in a gilded mansion, surrounded by luxury, but without the freedom to simply be a child. That realization only strengthened João's desire to protect him. And so, as their friendship grew stronger, João failed to notice that his presence was already drawing too much attention. The delicate balance of their bond was about to be shattered by the arrival of the mansion's true guardian, Lucas's father. The next morning, the site buzzed with activity when an imposing figure appeared at the mansion's entrance. It was Alberto, Lucas's father. He wore a flawless suit. His cold gaze and commanding presence enough to silence the workers for a moment. João, curious but unaware of what was coming, kept laying bricks. Moments later, Lucas came running toward him, beaming. "João!" he exclaimed, throwing his arms around the bricklayer. That innocent gesture, however, was enough to draw Alberto forward, his expression stern and disapproving. "Lucas, step away immediately," he ordered in a sharp, cold voice. João tried to explain, but Alberto cut him off, placing himself squarely between them. His eyes locked on the bricklayer. "You are nothing more than a hired hand. Your duty is to build walls, not befriend my son." The words hit João like stones, but he kept his composure. Lucas tried to intervene. "Father, he's my friend," he cried, his voice trembling. Alberto, unmoved, retorted, "Friends are not found in the dust of a construction site." The boy stepped back, crushed, while João felt powerless. That day, Alberto explicitly forbade any contact between João and Lucas. He ordered the staff to keep a close eye on the boy and to report any attempt at closeness. To him, a bricklayer had no business even looking at his heir. From then on, João worked with a heavy heart. He saw Lucas only from a distance, pulled away by Clara or the guards. The boy looked back at him with sorrow, raising his hands silently, as if begging for help. Yet João could do nothing without risking his job. Still, he didn't give up. He found ways to slip notes on scraps of paper, with simple words like, "I'm here," or "Everything will be all right." Clever as ever, Lucas found them and smiled in secret. It was the only way to keep their bond alive. The forced distance only deepened their connection. João realized it was no longer just friendship. He felt a profound responsibility for the boy's well-being. He was willing to risk more than he ever thought possible just to stay by his side. Meanwhile, Alberto continued his constant travels, leaving Lucas in Clara's care. The housekeeper, once skeptical, began to question her own stance. Perhaps João truly was the boy's only source of genuine happiness. Though reluctant, the thought planted a seed of change in her heart. But Alberto had not spoken his last word. His contempt for João was not just social, it was also personal. And the millionaire was determined to do whatever it took to keep the bricklayer away from his son, even if it meant sacrificing Lucas's happiness. After the prohibition, Lucas became even more determined to see João. He found clever ways to slip past the watchful eyes of the staff. He waited for moments when the housekeeper was busy, then darted discreetly toward the construction site. Hidden among stacks of bricks, he reunited with the bricklayer he admired so deeply. Joao, uneasy, tried to send him away. "You shouldn't be here, kid. If your father finds out," he warned with concern. But Lucas held his hand firmly and answered, "I don't care, Joao. You're my friend." Faced with the boy's sincerity, Joao's heart softened. He couldn't bring himself to reject that bond. They began sharing brief, almost stolen moments. Joao taught Lucas how to lay small bricks, as if they were toy pieces. The boy smiled proudly with every little achievement, while Joao pretended to scold him. "Careful, you'll end up taking my job." Deep down though, he felt joy just watching Lucas so happy. One afternoon, Joao brought Lucas a simple sweet bread from the neighborhood bakery. The boy tasted it and broke into a genuine smile, as if it were the most delicious thing in the world. "No one's ever brought me something like this," he said, moved. Joao was taken aback. How could someone so rich be enchanted by something so simple? Clara soon began noticing Lucas's absences at certain times. Instead of reporting him, she quietly observed. She saw how different the boy looked when he returned from the construction site. Lighter, happier. Her heart, shaped by years of raising generations in that mansion, was moved in silence. The secret meetings grew more frequent. Lucas confided his fears, of losing his father completely, of never having real friends, of living locked inside an empty castle. Joao listened to every word and silently vowed to be the strength the boy needed. In turn, Joao opened his own heart. He shared stories of his youth and of the wife he had lost. Lucas listened intently and said softly, "I wish my mother were here too." Hearing those words, Joao felt a deep ache in his soul, understanding the boy's pain even more. Their laughter and conversations became a refuge amid the mansion's rigidity. More and more, Joao realized he wasn't the only one giving support. Lucas was also giving him something he thought he'd lost forever, the feeling of family. But such a bond couldn't stay hidden for long. Secrets always find a way to surface. And while Joao and Lucas strengthened their friendship, Clara wrestled in silence with the truth she carried, deciding whether or not to intervene. The bricklayer had no idea that his presence in the boy's world wasn't mere coincidence. It was part of a greater destiny, tied to secrets soon to be revealed. On a rainy morning, Clara asked Joao for a private conversation. Her expression was serious, but not hostile. "We need to talk about Lucas," she said, meeting his eyes. Joao's heart raced. He feared it might be a warning, or worse, an order to stay away for good. Clara let out a deep sigh before continuing. "Do you know who he is?" Joao hesitated. "I thought he was the son of a servant, but now I'm not so sure." The housekeeper closed her eyes for a moment and revealed, "Lucas isn't just the master's son. He is the sole heir to this entire fortune." The silence that followed was heavy. Joao was stunned, speechless. All those shared lunches, simple conversations, and innocent games suddenly took on a new weight. He realized he had been caring for someone carrying the burden of an empire. "Why tell me this now?" Joao asked, still confused. Clara's voice was firm. "Because you need to understand the danger you're in. Mr. Alberto will never allow a simple man to influence his son. But I also know you're the only one who's brought Lucas real happiness." Joao felt a mix of pride and fear. Pride for being important to the boy, but fear of the consequences. Facing a man like Alberto wouldn't be easy. Yet walking away from Lucas seemed impossible. Meanwhile, Lucas kept seeking him out, more confident than ever. Joao, now aware of the truth, looked at him with a heavier heart. He no longer saw just a lonely boy, he saw an heir, trapped in a gilded cage, in desperate need of someone to remind him what it meant to be a child. For the first time, Clara showed empathy. "I've served this family for decades. I've seen many come and go, but I've never seen Lucas as happy as he is with you. Perhaps you're the only one who can touch his heart, and maybe even his father's." Her words struck João like a calling. He realized he wasn't just helping a child, he was becoming part of a much greater story than he ever imagined. That night at home, João reflected on everything. His protective instinct grew stronger with each passing day. He no longer saw Lucas only as a friend, but as a son in his heart. He was ready to face whatever came his way. But João didn't know that this revelation was only the beginning of a battle. The true challenge still lay ahead, and the love growing between him and Lucas would soon be tested in ways neither of them could have foreseen. The mansion's heavy silence was broken when Alberto summoned João for a private talk. The bricklayer stepped hesitantly into the luxurious room, where the millionaire awaited him with a frozen expression. "You've gotten too close to my son," Alberto said, arms crossed. His firm voice sounded more like a sentence than a statement. João took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. "I never meant to intrude, sir. I only cared for him as best I could. He was alone." Alberto slammed his hand against the desk and snapped, "My son doesn't need a bricklayer's pity. He needs discipline, not cheap affection." Every word cut like a blade. Then Alberto opened a folder and pulled out a check. "Here's enough money to change your life. Leave this site, disappear from my son's world, and never seek him out again." João looked at the paper but didn't reach for it. His blood boiled at the man's arrogance. "I'm not here for money," he replied firmly. "If I shared my food with your son, it was out of kindness, not self-interest." Alberto frowned, surprised at his defiance. "Everyone has a price. Find yours and leave." But João's gaze didn't falter. There's no amount of money that can buy true love. Meanwhile, Lucas was secretly listening behind the half-open door. His hands trembled, his eyes filled with tears. He felt the weight of being treated as a bargaining chip by his own father. The boy slipped away silently, determined not to let João be torn from his life. When João left the room, he found Lucas crying. The bricklayer wrapped him in a hug, trying to calm him. "I won't abandon you, kid. Believe me." The boy smiled through his tears, finding strength in his friend's simple words. It was a silent pact, sealed between two hearts that recognized each other. In the following days, Alberto tightened his control. Guards were stationed around the mansion, and Lucas's schedule was restricted. Yet even that wasn't enough to stop their bond. João and Lucas found creative ways to keep it alive. Hidden notes, brief conversations from afar. Clara, now closer to João, began quietly helping them. She allowed Lucas to slip away at opportune moments, understanding that his happiness depended on that friendship. Deep down, she felt a quiet pride in the silent resistance they showed together. But the tension grew heavier with each day. Alberto refused to lose control and prepared harsher measures. To him, João was no longer just an insolent laborer, he was a real threat to his empire. And so while João renewed his loyalty to Lucas, Alberto readied his strongest blow. The fate of their friendship was about to be decided in an inevitable confrontation. Alberto's chance came during a lavish party at the mansion, where businessmen and politicians had gathered. João, assigned only to oversee small repairs in the garden, kept to the background. But Lucas, ignored by the guests, sought out the bricklayer for comfort. "You're the only one who listens to me, João," the boy whispered, hugging him quietly behind the glass greenhouse. João returned the embrace, only to be startled by Alberto's cold voice. "Enough!" The millionaire appeared with guards at his side, fury burning in his eyes. Before everyone present, Alberto accused João of infiltrating his family. "You should never have gotten close to my son. You're nothing but a laborer looking for an easy climb." The guests murmured in shock at the scene. João, however, stood his ground. I never wanted your fortune, Mr. Alberto. I only gave your son something your money could never buy, affection. Silence fell for a moment. João's words struck like hammer blows in Lucas's heart, and the boy ran forward to place himself between them. Father, stop! He cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. You may have all the money in the world, but you can't buy my love. João is my friend, and I won't let you take him away from me. The audience watched, astonished by the boy's unexpected courage. The uncomfortable silence forced Alberto to truly look at his son. For the first time, he saw the pain in Lucas's eyes, the pain he had ignored for the sake of business and appearances. The mask of an unshakable man began to crack. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady. Sir, for years I've watched Lucas suffer in silence. João brought him the only joy he has ever known. If you drive him away, you won't just lose a bricklayer, you'll lose your son's love as well. Alberto hesitated. Guests whispered, some discreetly criticizing him. The social and emotional pressure left him cornered. For the first time, he felt vulnerable in the empire he had built. Lucas gripped João's hand and declared, "He is the family I chose." The words echoed like a final verdict. Alberto, weary of resisting, lowered his shoulders. Perhaps I was wrong, he muttered, barely audible. In that moment, the battle was decided. The confrontation had not been won by force, but by love. And João, with nothing more than his simplicity, had overcome the most powerful man he had ever faced. The days following the party were filled with silence and reflection within the mansion. Alberto, long accustomed to commanding with an iron hand, now faced an inner conflict. Lucas's words echoed endlessly in his mind. You may have all the money in the world, but you can't buy my love. For the first time, the millionaire began to see the loneliness he had imposed on his own son. João, meanwhile, kept his distance, waiting to see how things would unfold. He didn't want to intrude or spark new conflicts. Yet Lucas sought him out every day, bringing with him a smile that had become essential in João's life. The bricklayer felt, in some way, that he was already part of that family. One morning, Alberto called João into his office. This time, his tone carried no hostility, only humility. I still don't understand how you managed something all my money never could, earning my son's trust and love. João, in his simple way, replied, Sometimes, sir, all it takes is listening with the heart. Alberto took a deep breath and for the first time, apologized. I was blind. I lost my wife early and buried myself in business to numb the pain. But I forgot my son needed me. And you, without even meaning to, showed me that. João was moved, surprised by the unexpected sincerity. That very night, Alberto approached Lucas. Instead of the usual cold words, the father embraced his son for the first time in years. Forgive me, son. I was absent when you needed me most. But I promise I'll change. Tears welled in Lucas's eyes as he answered simply, All I ever wanted was you, Dad. The mansion, once cold and silent, began to transform. Laughter echoed through its halls, and the staff noticed the difference in the air. Clara, content, watched from a distance, her heart relieved to finally see the family finding balance. João continued his work on the construction site, but now he was no longer seen as just a laborer. Alberto treated him with respect, recognizing the value he held in Lucas's life. Many times, he invited João to join them for dinner, as part of the family. A simple gesture, yet filled with meaning. Lucas, happier than ever, spent more and more time with João. Not only learning about bricks and cement, but about values, solidarity, honesty, and faith. The boy grew up understanding that the greatest wealth wasn't his father's fortune, but the heart of someone willing to share even the little he had. Alberto, now transformed, began balancing business with personal life. He realized that his true legacy for Lucas wouldn't be his companies, but the renewed presence of a loving father. And João had become an essential part of that journey. A living example that simplicity can soften even the hardest of hearts. And so the story that began with a shared lunchbox ended with a family rebuilt. João, Lucas, and Alberto discovered that love is the greatest wealth of all. And the mansion, once a symbol of solitude, became the home where three hearts finally found each other, never to be apart again. And so the simple act of sharing a lunchbox became a story powerful enough to change lives forever. The bricklayer discovered that his greatest wealth wasn't in his pocket, but in his heart, and proved that true love can tear down even the tallest walls. If this story touched you, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and tell us in the comments what moved you the most. Your participation is what keeps us bringing more stories as inspiring as this one. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and turn on the notification bell, so you won't miss any of the next emotional stories we're preparing for you. Because here, every video is more than just a story, it's a life lesson. See you next time.